Hey, everybody, and welcome to Realty Success. I'm so happy that you're here today. We're going to talk about something that's on everybody's minds. What's going on in the real estate market? What are the trends and the importance of keeping an eye on those trends? And joining us this week is our regular crowd. We have with us Angela Brown, CEO of Savvy Cleaner. Angela, if you would please come along and introduce yourself to everybody.
Well, hey, everybody. I'm super excited to join you today. I'm Angela Brown, and I'm the CEO of Savvy Cleaner, and we train house cleaners and maids, and we work on the move-in, move-out part of your home sale. I do have a book that I have written called The Ultimate Guide to Move-In, Move-Out Cleaning, and it's got a whole bunch of checklists in it, and you can save yourself a whole bunch of money if you go through the checklists and you do it yourself. Every day it gives you little different steps and all the to-dos on how to get your home ready so that that move-in, move-out cleaning process is super easy from the time that you're staging your home to get it ready to show all the way through the move out process. So check it out. All right. I'm super excited to join you guys today, and back to you, Brooke, to hear more about the guests that we have.
Yeah, thank you so much. Also with us today, we have two of our other hosts who are here with us every week. We have Regina Brown. Regina, would you come and say hello to everybody?
Absolutely. Thank you for having us. I'm Regina. I am a luxury realtor here out of San Antonio, Texas. So anyone looking to buy or sell in San Antonio, please reach out. I would love to help you.
Great.
And
Thanks,
I am
Regina.
Aaron. I get to work with Regina, and we're both realtors here in the area. We're so excited to be part of the show today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Aaron. We're excited to have you. And I am Brooke Bryant, a realtor in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm so excited because we have as our guest today a realtor out of Fredericksburg, Virginia. And she's going to talk with us about the importance of keeping an eye on real estate trends and also the importance of home inspections. So we're so excited to have you with us, Amy Cherry Taylor.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me today. So I'm Amy Cherry Taylor, and I run a team in Fredericksburg, Virginia. We're about an hour south of Washington, D.C., and about an hour north of Richmond. So very, very busy marketplace, and I'm very thankful to be here. So thanks for having me.
Well, we're so glad that you could join us. So you're on a team with your firm. Can you tell us a little bit about your team?
Sure, absolutely. So yes, I'm the team lead. There are 15 of us. We have 10 agents on my team that are both buying and listing specialists. And then we also have a fantastic administrative team with transaction coordinators, listing coordinators, stager. So I'm very, very proud of my team. We're actually an all-female team, which we had not necessarily set out to be that way, but that's just what has evolved over the years. So we're a very, very close team, and many of us are from Fredericksburg and the surrounding areas. And then we have a couple of others who have moved here over the years. So we have a great subsection of both people who have moved here and then natives as well.
Great. So in Fredericksburg, close to DC, I just wonder what the market, what changes you're seeing in the market. Is it similar to what so many of us are seeing throughout the country?
I think that it is, and obviously, I think one of the most important things about real estate is that it's always local, right? So we do hear these overwhelming trends that do seem to, flow across the country. But at the end of the day, real estate is so local. And, one of our biggest stories here, I think, is what a lot of people are experiencing, and that is the lack of inventory. So that has been, one of the largest challenges this year so far. But also, probably one of the things it's helping to protect our market as well. Having the supply demand be what it is, especially throughout all the changes that we're all experiencing with interest rates and just supply and demand in general. So that, I think, is one of the biggest things that we've seen so far here in the Fredericksburg area this year.
Are you seeing a change in your inventory levels? I'm in the Charlotte area, and we're getting a little bit more inventory, but it's still a seller's market. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, so we're a little bit jealous about that. Yeah, it's still, we started a market report actually March 16th of 2020. So right when everything started with COVID, we actually started tracking the market here on a weekly basis. So every single week we publish the amount of new listings, the amount of new pending contracts, and the amount of homes that have been removed from the market. And one of the reasons why we did that is just because I think it's so important to take the emotion out of, of real estate sometimes, and really track what's happening in the statistics, and not just what we're feeling and what we think that is happening and what we're necessarily hearing throughout various, publications and media outlets. We really wanted to say, okay, this is what is happening here in Fredericksburg. And so, yeah, I mean, that certainly has been a big theme, especially throughout our summer. We tend to have a little bit of a slower summer here in Fredericksburg. We have a lot of travel up and down 95 between Washington, D.C. and Richmond is just a really tricky corridor. I know it's one of the busiest spots throughout the country as far as traffic goes. So we do tend to have a slower summer, and that's actually a normal market for us. Our spring market starts very, very early here, end of January, beginning of February, and then our second busiest time is always after Labor Day. And Labor Day, through that November-ish time frame is just, those are the two busiest times of the year. So for us, we always have a little bit lower inventory during the summer. That's not necessarily something that is new. I think it's just something that has become more readily apparent because of the after effects of the COVID market and just having this frenzy and all this inventory that was going on and coming off so fast. So it's been a little bit slower. I do really anticipate starting to see some more inventory come back on the market after the Labor Day holiday. And I think it's going to be, a good fall around here. Still with more limited inventory than what we're used to, but I think it's going to be more inventory than we saw this summer.
So I've got a question, because I know as the market trends change, home buyers have a tendency to not be as up and current with the trends as realtors. And so if I were a home buyer and I were in the market, how would I know what the current trends are right now? And we're talking today about neglecting those market trends. If I just go cold into the market and I don't know what the trends are, is there a way to recover from that if I totally screw up?
I mean, I think that there is, obviously the education is what is so important right now, and really understanding your market and really understanding the opportunities, because there are opportunities in every market. You just have to know what they are and when to find them. But, I think that you kind of learn the hard way, right? Like in our market, the properties that are going to be the most sought after, that are, perfectly move-in ready, that are updated in great locations, they're still seeing multiple offers. We do have properties that are sitting on the market a little bit longer if they're in more of our possibly more rural areas, or they, if they're not move-in ready. That's why when you were showing your book, I was like writing down, we got to get this book, because, it's so important. And in our marketplace, you have to be completely move-in ready, or buyers are willing to wait for something else, even with a limited inventory. They don't want to spend all the extra money to go in and have to do paint, carpet upgrades. They're already paying more than that they want to pay, and their rates are a little bit higher and their payments are higher. So they're not wanting to do all these extras. So as a first time, if you're a buyer not really understanding what the market is and you're going in, you may miss out on, the properties that you really want to be in, because you're not as competitive as you need to be, or you're not as quick as you need to be, or you're not quite as ready in the moving process as you need to be when you find that perfect home. So it's absolutely recoverable, but I think you're going to find out pretty quick if you're making those mistakes, because you're just not necessarily going to be able to secure that house that you really wanted.
Well, and I think to add to that, the trends, whenever you buy or you sell, they're going to fluctuate. So you have the opportunity down the road to benefit from the market, whether you're a buyer or seller, swinging more your way. And once you've had that first transaction, if you did miss the boat a little bit, you're going to be a little more savvy about it next time and realize, oh, wow, interest rates are low. Maybe now I should really focus on buying, or prices are creeping up. I should get my house ready to put on the market. So like you said, Amy, education is key to be ready for it the next time the wave comes your way.
Oh, I completely agree. And I think there's always, like I was saying, there's always opportunities. So, whether it's on the buying side or the selling side, or you need to wait just a little bit longer to kind of time that the right way, there's always the opportunities. It's just really understanding what your market is like, and not necessarily, like we were saying earlier, listening to the overall trends of what you're hearing, but really understanding where your market is, where the opportunities are, and then timing it right for yourself.
And Angela, you asked what, as a buyer, you may not be as up to date, as current on the market trends. What should you do? And I think all of us realtors would agree that you need to align yourself with a realtor who is knowledgeable in your local market.
So then my next question is, what kind of questions should I be asking a realtor if I know that I'm uneducated and I know that I need to be more aware of the market trends? What kind of questions should I be asking?
Do you want me to answer that?
Sure. Go ahead. Anybody jump in.
I was going to let everybody else speak. You know, I think that, you know, when you're sitting down, you really need to figure out where you want to be, because the questions that you're going to ask also are determined on the location that you want to be in, the price point that you want to be in. I think you need to understand, you know, what is the inventory been? How many homes are available in that potential price range? Have sellers been paying closing costs, or have they been very, very competitive? Is it a competitive sector where you're seeing that the list price to sales price ratio is always over 100%, meaning that buyers are not getting closing costs and they're having to compete? I think you need to understand, you know, where are you going and what is common in that area? What are the average days on market? You know, how fast do you need to be ready to make a decision? You know, how much education do you need to have ahead of time so that when that happens, you don't feel rushed, you actually feel prepared and ready to go. And the flip side of that is I think you need to really ask a lot of questions about what are the best loan programs for you and what are the best financing options. And, you know, if you're a first-time home buyer, are there good grants for you to be able to use, or what are all of your various options so that you can find that home that you can afford and really make it work for you. So I think those are some very important questions to ask.
Are you guys still more in a buyer's market or seller's market?
We're still more in a seller's market just because we have such limited inventory. So, you know, and it also depends on the price point and location. So for instance, I have one home last weekend that had 7 offers and went considerably over asking with waived contingencies. And then I had another property in a totally different location and price point, which is still wonderful, and it was move-in ready, but maybe it wasn't completely as desirable because it didn't have a deck, it didn't have a patio, it didn't have a fenced backyard. So there are a couple little things missing, and it was priced for that. But at the same time, we actually paid a little bit in closing costs, which you don't typically see. And our days on market were, you know, a couple of weeks, which really isn't that long at the end of the day. But for this area, when you're used to everything going in 24 to 48 hours for so long, people see 20 days or 25 days and feel like, you know, that's a long time on the market. So we're still very much in a seller's market, but buyers can find those little pockets of opportunities. And so that's why we really encourage people to hang in there. And, you know, we just sometimes have to wait a little bit of time or kind of find that perfect one where if you really need closing costs, that, you know, we should hopefully be able to help find that. It just isn't going to be quite as quick, maybe.
Makes sense.
So what's driving your market? In the Charlotte, North Carolina area, we're seeing a lot of people move from the Northeast and from the West Coast here. And I think a lot of that happened with COVID. People can work from home much more readily than they used to be able to. And we are really close, or a 2-hour drive from the mountains and the coast. So it's kind of desirable. Is your market, I know you're close to DC, is that a big factor in your market?
It is a big factor. So we have a lot of relocation between military, government. You know, we have a number of military bases that are, you know, within an hour to an hour and a half of our area, and some that are even closer. So a lot of military and government relocation in and out. We also have a lot of relocation from Northern Virginia. So our Northern Virginia, just right outside of the suburbs of Washington, D.C., has just become very expensive over the last few years. So our commuters who are willing to commute an hour to an hour and a half and be able to get a much larger home, more acreage, more square footage for a smaller price will come down to our area and then commute to Northern Virginia. Another large part of our market down here is our move-up buyer. You know, we have a lot of people who have a tremendous amount of equity. So if they bought that home during COVID and maybe that was right for them at that point in time, and we are a few years down the road and maybe they are traveling back up into Washington, D.C., or their lifestyle has changed a little bit, they have a tremendous amount of equity. And so they have been able to cash in on that. And we do see that kind of ebb and flow a little bit with the rates. You know, as the rates go up, they don't necessarily want to do it as much as when the rates get a little bit more competitive. But between the military, government, relocation, and that local buyer, that's really what we're seeing.
So speaking of rates, if you've got a buyer who's concerned about the interest rates and they say to you, what should I do? Should I wait? Should I go ahead? I know it's situational, but how would you advise your client?
Yeah, I mean, it's super situational. And I think it also depends on how long they plan to be in their next home. I think depending upon, the price point. In our area, though, because of the lack of inventory, we're continuing to see the prices of homes increase. So a lot of times, if you wait and wait and wait and you're only driven by that interest rate, you're going to end up spending more. We're not seeing a decline in home prices here. So we're really having those conversations to understand what the next 3 to 5 years look like for our buyers. Is this going to be a long-term home? Is this more of a short-term home? Is an ARM possibly something, if they know they are absolutely moving, in 3 to 4 years, maybe a 7-year ARM is something that might actually be really advantageous for them. It just depends on who they are, what their situation is, what type of equity or cash on hand that they have. I really think it's super important right now to understand that, like you said, it's very situational. But I think that you have to be aligned with some really good local lenders that really can sit down and discuss what their options are, what can they afford. And that's really more of what we have been honing in on is what is your budget? What can you afford, necessarily what the rate is, right? Especially if, there are times where if they move into a rental right now, a year from now, that price is going to even be this much more. So even if that rate comes down a little bit, is that going to offset it? It's, who knows? It's hard to say right now. So if they're going to be here for a little bit and they can get in and they can start building that wealth and building that equity because of these price increases, and then potentially take advantage of a free refinance, like one of our lenders is doing a 5-year free refinance. So you have to be comfortable with that payment that you're going in at, right? You can't go in, just assuming that rate's going to go down. We always try to make sure our clients know, hey, Liz, we got to plan for worst case scenario, because you don't want to put yourself into a situation. But, in studying what's going on with the market and what everybody's anticipating happening, you can also make some fairly good educated decisions with that.
All right. So I've got a question for all of the realtors, and you can answer in any order that you like. But I'm curious to know, if I was just going to start researching the market trends right now, where would I go to look to understand or to research my current market trends? Anyone?
I would say call a realtor, because that's their whole life. There's a lot of resources online when it comes to finding out market trends, but some of it's not entirely accurate. For example, Zillow and Realtor both put out a lot of market data, but they're a marketing company, and that marketing data is more to drive leads to their website as opposed to show you exactly what's going on in the market. And so I would say contact a local realtor in your area, and they will help you understand exactly what's going on as far as market trends and what's happening. We follow news both locally and nationally on a daily basis in terms of market. And most realtors do weekly updates every week of what's going on, inventory, how things are moving. We're constantly talking with lenders as far as rates and loan programs and what's happening. And so also, it's kind of hyper specific to you personally in terms of what you need. What are you looking for? Depending on your situation, we can direct you into an area where most of the information online is fairly general, and it doesn't necessarily impact you particularly. A national rate, a year ago, homes here were selling for 105% of list price, so 5% over what they were actually listed for. Right now, we're in a complete buyer's market, and most homes are selling 97, 98% of list price. And so you have a 2-3% margin room for negotiation right now. A year ago, not only were we paying over asking, a lot of people were paying $50,000, $100,000 over asking. So
appraisals and inspections.
Rates are a little bit higher right now, but you can get a house cheaper in this market than you could have a year ago, even with higher rates. So it seems kind of, specific to the person in terms of what's going on with the market. What do they need? What price point? And what are they looking for? And a good realtor should be able to help educate someone in that right direction. Otherwise, it's like listening to the news. It's just general, and it may or may not help you with a purchase or a sell of your home. So That's what I would say.
Well, that becomes my immediate question. How do I know what kind of questions to be asking? What should I be looking for? Because if I don't know and I'm just kind of like watching the general overall market trends, how do I know if it applies to me?
Well, I can speak to that and touch on some conversations that we've had in the past. I know that Aaron and Regina speak about when they meet with clients, they kind of liken it to a dating situation. And so much of real estate is about developing relationships, knowing your client, what's important to them, what they're looking for, and helping to manage expectations. So it's real estate and purchasing a home or investing in real estate. They're huge financial considerations, and you should really be talking with somebody that you trust, somebody that you feel like has your best interests at heart, rather than just going and getting some spreadsheets and some charts and that sort of thing, because real estate is really situational, and you want to talk to somebody who's looking out for you, taking the time to listen to, what are your long-term goals. If you get that information if you just Google it, it's not going to really understand, okay, well, this is right for Angela because her long-term goals are this. So it really is important to develop that relationship. Sit down with a realtor and say, hey, I just have some questions about real estate. I don't really know where to begin. Let's have a conversation. And your realtor will say to you, okay, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you want to still be in this house? Do you want to move to the coast? Do you think maybe you want to invest in real estate? And have those conversations, and then they can gather the data for you specific to your needs.
And also, I would say if you're looking for specific, like general real estate for my area, the National Association of Realtors website has a lot of public data on every region. So NAR.com, and then also Red News for commercial. So either of those sites, if you want just general, for my area, this is what we're looking for, that'd be a great resource. But any realtor is going to be able to hone in and direct specifically what you're looking for and cater it to your needs.
Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate the information.
Yeah, it is so super specific to your situation.
It is. And I think one of the important things, especially if you're kind of doing a Google search or something like that, you need to find some of the reports that are just statistics, right? You're trying to take some of the opinion out of it and really kind of see what those numbers are. Here locally, our Association of Realtors also puts them out just for this region. The Chamber of Commerce here also puts information out for consumers. And then, like I said, we do a fredericksburgmarketreport.com that we update every Monday. So, there may be somebody in your marketplace that is also tracking like that, or, like they've said, contact your realtor, because everybody is really studying right now and really trying to keep up on trends. And I think everybody was just absolutely spot on with that. I think especially when you're talking about, when he was discussing about how much higher things were going, and that was happening here. And, like I said, this past weekend, I even had one that was considerably higher than list price. So, if you don't have that cash to be able to put in and to really go on over and above, that's what you really need to be talking to a realtor about, is finding out what those opportunities are. And maybe even if the market is a little bit slower and maybe your rate is a little bit higher, but you're not necessarily going to be competing quite as much as what you will if those rates start to come down, right? I think there's a lot of people who are watching them. And so if they start to come down, they may jump in. And if they jump in, then you have some more competition. So I think you need to meet with your realtor and ask them, what do you think I need to know? I think that's just a good basic question, because like everybody was saying, when you're really establishing those relationships and learning about your clients and what they need, their needs and their wants and everything else, you're going to have somewhat of an idea of how to be able to give them the information that they need.
Well, that takes me back to our question of today, the dangers of neglecting the market trends. What are some of the dangers of neglecting the market trends?
Well, I'll jump in on this one. I had a buyer client recently, first-time home buyer, and we were looking at the condominiums, and we were going with his parents, who I had also helped in the purchase of their home several years prior. And it'd been a long time since they bought real estate, 5 years or more, and the market's changed drastically. So we're going to look at properties with them, and I'm letting them know what the trends are, where we're looking, and the parents are like, oh, no, 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 you don't want to offer that. Look, you're going to have to paint this thing. Let's offer X amount less than that. And he missed out on two opportunities that he really wanted to, because he trusted the parents rather than the data, which was, no, units in this area are selling at 103% on average of the sale price, no closing cost, and they're not staying on the market longer than 36 hours. So that's one of the dangers, that you can miss out. And luckily we found the perfect, once we got past that and learned that, no, we really need to know what the trends are and pay attention to those. Once we got past that, we got the good opportunity. But, it could have been not the case and missed out on the perfect home.
We have a client right now who his uncle told him that when he purchased, he got like $40,000 off on his house. So he's only wanting to look at homes $40,000 above what he's approved for. And as a result, he's been looking for quite a while. And no matter what data we show him, he's convinced that he's going to get $40,000, $50,000 off ask price. And as a result, he still hasn't got a house. He looks every weekend with us, and we keep finding homes closer to his budget, and he doesn't like those. And he only wants to see homes that are, $50,000 over what he's approved for. And then he's really shocked when he doesn't get an offer accepted. So again, it just comes back to that education and trusting your realtor. We do this every day, all day, and help hundreds of families a year. And so, how many homes has your uncle bought? I guess.
Yeah. No, I agree with you guys. And I think even from the seller side, one of our challenges over the last year, especially, has been to really educate people and explain to them why they do need to go ahead and change that carpet, or go ahead and paint, or go ahead and make some of these changes that buyers are expecting. And they think that they can just put their house on the market, it's going to sell, we have limited inventory, they're going to get the multiple offers like everybody else. But the buyers are really saying that they want something that's move-in ready. They're already paying a little bit more than they want to pay. Their interest rates are higher, their mortgage payments are higher. They're already dealing with all of the things that, are happening in the economy and inflation and everything else. So they don't want to deal with these. So as a seller, if you kind of neglect what that buyer's truly looking for, you're actually leaving money on the table. If you don't do those things, you're not necessarily going to get those multiple offers. You're not going to see the benefits of all the overages and the waived contingencies and minimal inspections and the things that you could really be experiencing should you have done those things. So I think from a seller side that there's definitely been some dangers of neglecting the trends of what's happening, and that just leaves money on the table.
So how do you know between what Erin said, when I heard something from a relative that said I could get X amount of dollars off or buy it at a discounted rate? How do you know when to go ahead and just trust your realtor? Like, hey, my realtor has my best interest in mind. If you don't know what the questions are that you're asking, and I loved your question, Amy, where you said, ask your realtor, what do I need to know? What is it that I need to know? How do you, I guess my question is, how do you know where the fine line is between what everyone else is saying and what the realtor is saying, so that you can make that educated, somewhere in the middle decision on it's the right time to buy right now? How do I know when the right time to jump in and go ahead and buy the houses, instead of waiting, like Erin said, keep waiting and waiting and waiting and looking every weekend and wasting the realtor's time, hoping you're going to find a better deal, and it just ain't there?
Well, I think you have to trust who you're working with. I think you have to do your research. I think you need to, interview your realtors and make sure that you're working with somebody that really is, has their finger on the pulse of the market, really understands what's happening, because that does happen a lot. What both of them have said, we've all experienced, and you try to be super gentle and you try to just educate and you try to, we'll show stats, and I'm sure this is exactly what you guys do. And you pull the other homes that were right there in the price points or location and say, well, look what they sold for. These are the days on market. This is how much it sold. This is whether they had any closing costs attached or not. And you just show these trends so that they understand understand that this is truly what's happening. And honestly, sometimes it just takes a couple of times of trying it and not necessarily seeing the results that you're hoping for. And then they start to understand, because nobody wants to lose out on the home that they really want. They want to be successful, and they're seeing the fluctuations of rates and things like that. And so they're feeling a little bit of pressure and trying to figure out when to go. So I think you just really have to do your research and trust who you're working with, because you need to have a partnership so that, when we call and say, hey guys, the 10-year treasury dropped and the rates are down a little bit, call your lender today. We're not just, saying that, we're seeing a benefit to them, right? And we're trying to share that. And, or this property is getting ready to come on the market. And, maybe we see an opportunity for them that we really want them to be aware of and want them to be ready if it's the right one. So I think the trust is really important. And maybe have your family members meet. I've done that lots of times. I'm sure you guys have too, where if they have a trusted advisor or somebody that, is really working with them or coming with them, to try to bring them in on it, right? And share the same information so that they truly understand what the market is, what the time frame is. Because, like you guys said, sometimes people have bought 10, 15 years ago, or even if you bought 5 years ago, our market 5 years ago is nothing like our market is now. So it's tough to navigate sometimes.
Well, I know that in the area we live in, and I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina as well, a couple of years ago, and this was maybe a year and a half ago, there were people knocking on our door saying, hey, can I buy your house? And I was like, no, my house is not for sale. But it put this little bug in the back of my mind, like, what if it was, right? I started thinking that how much could I get for my house? And I don't know if it was a realtor or if it was just people banging on my door. I don't know what it was, but I think I went to realtor.com or Redfin or something, and I put my information in. So then I got on this waiting list or this email list. They started like every week sending me like, hey, how much is your home worth today? And in the back of my mind, there's this little nagging thing that's like, should you sell? Should you sell? And so, my question is then, how do you know, because I haven't bought a house in 15 years. How do I know and the rates are not today what they were a year ago, right? I'm not going to get as much as I would have had I sold my house a year ago. So, but how do I know when the right time to buy is, or the right time to sell is?
Well, I think you need to determine what your goals are. Why are you moving? Why are you moving? Are you, and where are you going? Right. So are you downsizing? Are you just relocating for work? Do you just want to sell to kind of capitalize on your investment? I think, and if the answers to that are no, then you might not have the motivation or really need to or want to. Right.
Well, here's the thing. I don't want to sell. I love the house I'm in. I want to stay where I am. But my husband had this because like he heard, people banging on the door going, oh, you can get so much money for your house. He's like, we should sell the house. We should sell the house. Right. So he wants to sell and he's highly motivated. And I'm like, if I if I sell my house right now, I'm going to get more than I paid for it 15 years ago. That's true. But I'm also going to have to pay more for another house than I'm probably willing to spend. Right.
Well, maybe, but you may have to just find out. You need to understand, how much can you sell your home for? How much equity are you going to have? What type of home would you want to replace it with? What is that price point? If you put X amount of dollars down, how much is that mortgage? Are you getting something in that new home that you don't have, or something that is just that you need, right? What are your needs and your wants, or what don't you like about that home that you would want in that next home? So you kind of have to also look forward and see where you would go. But when you start getting numbers like that and you actually talk to a lender and you decide, should you put some of that equity towards a buy down, or should you, do some creative financing or what have you, it may be more reachable than you think it is, because you might have more equity than you think that you do. So, I think that research is always the most important thing, and you have to start by knowing your numbers. Once you know your numbers and that's when you can actually start looking around to see what you can afford, what you want to buy. And then does that make sense for you? Or are you looking at homes that you just would never want to live in because it's not your ideal? And I think those things answer your questions.
Remember, always take lifestyle into account.
Mm-hmm.
What is your lifestyle? Like, I know you have a lot of people at your home. You have a lot of people at office and work, and it might be perfectly conducive for your situation. So it might not make sense for you to downsize. It might not make sense for you to move. So take your lifestyle into great consideration when making that decision.
So do I take my current lifestyle into consideration, or do I take my future lifestyle into consideration? Because if I were to downsize, I would do things differently. And not because I need them now, but because in the future I need them.
How
And so I'm
far in the
thinking,
future?
That's what
well,
was
I don't know. That's the thing, because I'm thinking, like, for example, if I had an elder parent living with us, because right now my parents are elderly and so are my husband's parents. So I'm thinking in terms of what if one of our parents had to come stay with us. They're not going to want to like climb over the bathtub ledge to get inside and take a shower. They're going to want one of those walk-in showers that is easy to access, whether they're in a wheelchair or one of those chairs that they got to like, kind of like scoot over to the
Mhm.
shower. And so I'm thinking in terms of, wheelchair access, and I'm thinking in terms of wider doorways, and I'm thinking, do we do hardwoods where they can like wheel their little walker around instead of like on carpeted floors? And I'm trying to think, because none of those things apply to me now. I'm perfectly mobile right now, right?
And young.
Thank you. But as my parents are of a certain age, and I have no idea what the future holds, but I know like right now, my husband's father is on hospice and he's in a care center, but his mother is perfectly moving around right now and not so great, right? So it's very possible that somebody comes to live with us. And so to me, it would be great if there's like a mother-in-law suite on the first floor, things like that.
Well, that's
And
what I was
so
going to say. Can you have space, or can you reach out to contractors to see if I were to make some changes to my existing space, would that work for us? And is that a viable option? And I think sometimes you need to kind of do some of that research too. And then if you just decide that that is just not something that's going to work for you, I think you also have to make sure you're making a decision where you're going to be happy in the meantime, though. So if you're buying, like Regina was saying, if you're buying something for the future and that's 10 years down the road, well, that's a long time that you're going to be staying there. So until then, so I think that you kind of have to marry the two together.
Well, then that brings me to the next question, which is about home inspections. Because if I was going to sell my house and we were going to relocate, because I don't know why my husband keeps thinking that relocation is the answer. And if it is, the property that I'm in might need some home inspections and it might need some repairs. So tell me about what is the process for that?
Sure. You guys want to go?
Well, I know Amy mentioned that in your market that people were doing minimal home inspections, and we've even seen some where they waive the inspection. So if we all want to talk about that.
Yeah, here in San Antonio, we've moved into a buyer's market. And as a result of that, people are a lot more picky. Homes are sitting on the market a lot longer. And back to the point of making the home ready to sell, people are a lot more specific about what they're looking for. I want it move-in ready. I want it ready to go. We're encouraging our sellers right now to do an inspection report prior to listing it and fix those issues. Now, obviously, when they do that, those issues have to be disclosed, but then they're fixed. And we just went through this on a home, and we sold the home, and what came back for negotiations was a dishwasher rack. I mean, literally a dishwasher rack. And we ended up trading out, I think, the dishwasher for instead of repairing the dishwasher, we left a dryer in the house. But it was that as opposed to a litany of other issues that were all minor. But I mean, there was maybe 50 repairs that were done on that house, from cleaning the grout to fixing this and that, and steps and boards and whatever.
All small fixes, but there was a huge list of them.
Yeah, I mean, even down to repainting the front door from where the dogs had scratched it. So we're encouraging our sellers to go ahead and do that inspection report up front and just eliminate all of those issues out of the gate. And that seems to be working really well in our market because we are in a buyer's market. Now, in a seller's market a year ago, none of that mattered. People were still offering $50,000 over ask and didn't care. They're very picky today. So that's what we're seeing here in San Antonio.
Yeah. So in Fredericksburg, we're not in a buyer's market. So I agree with him. If we were in a buyer's market, I often have my sellers do a pre-inspection just like they're doing, because you're obviously trying to appeal to the buyers and let them know why they should choose that home, and that it's ready and it's going to be a smooth sale and things have already been taken care of or what have you. But, in the market that we're in right now, being a seller's market, if we're meeting with a seller and they know of something, then we're helping them obviously reach out to get that taken care of. They're going to have to disclose it. They're going to need to take care of it. And, a lot of buyers, because we are seeing minimal inspections, in that last competitive offer I was just telling you about earlier, they're not doing a home inspection. They actually waived the home inspection. But in the contract that we just did earlier today on the other property I told you about, they're doing one, but they're doing a right to void only. Now, part of the reason why they're doing that is because that property is in immaculate condition. The sellers have taken care of that property. They actually had a very minor issue in one of their bathrooms, and they went ahead and took care of that prior to listing, because they didn't want buyers to be concerned, and they knew that segment of the marketplace is taking just a little bit longer. So when that buyer walked through, they felt comfortable enough to offer an inspection without repair negotiations. They obviously want the right to be able to get out should something large come up, and hopefully they would bring that to our attention. We could potentially negotiate. But by and large, if we walk in and we see things, especially when we know that this house is going to be in a competitive situation, we will recommend that a seller go ahead and take care of it, because a lot of buyers are walking through and they're looking up and they're looking at all these places to see, do I really need the inspection? I want to be as competitive as possible. So the more that seller does ahead of time, and the better that they present the condition of that home, the more likely they're going to be to have all of those multiple offers and potentially waived inspections. So it kind of depends on which side of the market that you're on as far as how much you need to do or want to do in advance, I think.
And what kind of things are you guys looking for on a home inspection that are showing up for you guys as you should have fixed that kind of things?
Mm-hmm. In our market, we look for lender required repair issues. So, we want to know if there's going to be, if there's any mold, if there's a lot of rotten wood or peeling paint, or the roof looks like it's going to be failing soon, broken window repaired, cause an issue with the appraisal down the road. Those are definitely, significant issues that we're dealing with from the get-go.
Yeah, absolutely the same here. That's what we look for, lender required repairs, or we'll list the house only under certain criteria like cash and conventional only. But if you want to open it up to a bigger market, any lender required repair definitely needs to be addressed up front.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
so
we've seen, I've done a lot of work with VA loans. And so, and we try and focus on that too, just doing the lender repair or the lender required. And I'm also kind of in a little bit of a rural area. So we have a lot of septic tanks. I don't know if that's the case where you guys are, but septic tank inspections are still, they're still on the table.
Yeah, septic is still on the table for us, even though we have these, minimal inspections and everything else. Septic is a requirement of the loans in our area. So it just, a lot of times the buyer will offer to pay for the septic inspections or, what have you. But if there's major septic repairs, we still are pretty much negotiating that with the sellers at this point in time. And, depending upon whether it's a contingency situation, every now and again, we'll recommend, especially if that seller knows that septic has not been taken care of like it should have been, or that distribution box is 10 years or older or what have you, and we just have an assumption that there's probably going to be some repairs that need to be done, we'll go ahead and do it in advance so that they don't have to worry about having a contingency situation where they've got an offer on another house, they put theirs on, and then there's something that scares off that buyer. So, there's definitely some ebb and flow with what we do with that.
Are you seeing a lot more contingencies right now in your market?
Depends on the house. Like I said, when I had those 7 offers this past weekend, several of the offers had waived the majority of the inspections and several of them had all of them, so it just kind of depends. But then the one that I had that was not in a multiple offer situation, we have all the standard inspections, but they were still the best for the seller that we could get, but they're still there, right? So the buyer is getting the opportunity to do the inspections that they need to.
And as far as contingencies, are you seeing a lot more people with contingencies right now?
Like to sell, that they need to sell to sell a home contingent.
Waiting till they find the right home to put their home on the market, and then having a contingency situation.
Regardless of how many times you explain, it should be the other way around.
We're only laughing about it because we're seeing a huge uptick in that right now in our market. Almost every seller is coming to us saying, hey, we want to find the perfect home before we even think about putting ours on the market. And 1,000% we need to sell our home to pay for the new one.
I do see a lot of that, and I think it's because of the lack of inventory. So in our area, they want to do it, but then they're really nervous to put that house on the market and then maybe not find what they really want for 6 months to a year. So they try to look first and then do that second, right? So yeah, we've definitely been dealing with some of that for sure. At some points of our year, you can get a home sale contingency taken because there are certain homes that even if they've approached it that way, that house is going to sell within a week. And it's in great condition. And, we're able to show pictures in advance. This is what the house looks like. This is what we're pricing it. We expect a really quick sale. We sell our team services as far as, you can expect that we are going to do all of our due diligence to make sure that this is on track and closes on time, et cetera. But yeah, I think it's a low inventory thing in our area, but we definitely have a lot of people who would like to, and they try to start that way. Whether they go ahead and take the plunge is another story.
So what is the answer from a homeowner's perspective? What is the answer? Do I look for the new house first, or do I put my home on the market first and sell it
on the
and
market.
then I go looking?
1,000% put it on the market.
Just put yourself on the other side. Would you want someone to offer on your house when they hadn't sold their home yet and they didn't have money to purchase your home?
Yeah. And I think that, I agree with them, but there is something that we've been doing that's been really effective. And that is with our sellers that we know are going to need to sell. We will go ahead and stage. We will go ahead and take all of the pictures, the tours, we will get everything done that we're going to get done. And then we hold them and we start searching and looking for their new home. They've been pre-approved. They're ready to go. Once they start to see some options, because every now and again, something's going to start to come on. We're going to educate them in advance and say, hey, look, we're in a market right now where we may be able to get a contingency with a certain home, or you may lose out on it, right? And we're going to discuss that. But if they're really adamant about going straight from one to the other, we will do that sometimes. And then once they start to see some options, we'll go ahead and get that house on the market and then do a seller to find home of choice contingency, because we're still in somewhat of a seller's market. So I can do that, get that buyer on them, and then give us another 2, 3, 4 weeks to potentially find the next home. Now that window is closing, and that's the thing. That window opens at certain times of the year in our market where we can do a seller to find home of choice contingency. Other times we can't always do that. It depends on supply demand. But we've been really successful with being able to do that at times throughout the year. And sellers like it. It doesn't always line up exactly, but they at least have a chance when they find that home. They're ready. They can't find the home and then say, oh, now we need to do pictures and now we need to do this, that, and the other. And like she said, they've lost it to somebody who doesn't have all those constraints.
All right. So now I have two questions. All right. So the first question is, so I should go ahead and get my inspection right now and start fixing the things that I know need to be fixed right now, so that in that moment of weakness, when my husband is already ready to sell and I'm not, but I have a moment of weakness, I'm like, okay. That we then immediately put it on the market and off we go. That's my first question. Is that, am I thinking along the right lines there?
It depends on your market.
And how quickly you would actually be selling.
Yeah, your
if you
time
did
frame.
repairs now and didn't sell for a year, you're going to go back and have a new list of repairs in a year from now. So,
and that was my question. My question is, should I wait until I'm ready to sell to do those repairs, or do I go ahead and do them now? I don't have any dogs that are clawing the doors apart and stuff, but like the trim around my front door needs to be painted, and I could replace a couple of baseboards that have warped and need some repair, things like that.
I think there's always home maintenance that should be done on a regular basis, and most people are great with that. A lot of the repair issues that come up for loan types are, like wood rot, broken glass, AC or heater not working, kind of major issues. And so most people aren't so neglectful that they wouldn't address those necessarily. So I would say it just depends on timing. Regular maintenance things should continue to happen anyway to your home. And then when you get close to selling it in our market, we would recommend go ahead and get an inspection done and get all those little things checked that you're not normally checking. The plumbing under the sinks, and is the power box labeled, and things that you would never think about, and it's not a big deal.
What's the situation
But
with?
Go ahead. I was
So
going
go
to say
ahead, Amy.
plan though. Like I think, I encourage my sellers, if they're thinking 6 months or a year, let me come over and walk through, because it also depends on the location you're in, the price point you're going to be in. You may not have to do in our market certain things that you think you would, and then there's going to be other things that are really important to do. So depending upon how far in advance, like he's saying, some of the larger things you can just go ahead and do, because you're not necessarily going to want to do those at the last minute. If you need to go slap a thing of paint around the front door at the last minute or something, you can do that. But some of the other repairs that we see, or things that may kind of stand out to us, because we know as we walk through with buyers what are going to be super important, you can kind of compile a list and then decide what you need to do.
Also, that brings up a point. A lot of sellers, in their mind, they have something that would really increase the value of their home. And so they're willing to put money into that thing, but they haven't necessarily talked to a realtor. We were just at a house this week, and they're looking at selling. And so they asked us to come over and do an assessment on their property. When we got there, they had the most fantastic back patio you've ever seen. It looked like a cathedral. I mean,
Gorgeous.
It was really breathtaking. But the kitchen had not been updated. The bathrooms had been updated, but they used different toilets, countertops, and fixtures in every single bathroom, and different flooring. And then they'd never touched the kitchen. It was original.
From like 1985.
So it was really baffling as a realtor walking in going, wow, I could sell this back patio for sure. The rest of the house needs a makeover. And why did they put, whatever, $60,000 into the back patio? I mean, that's what you're going to enjoy in this house. And the rest of it was pretty scary. So I think if you're getting ready to sell a home or selling a home in a year from now, getting a realtor who's a listing agent in the market that does this every day to come in and say, hey, maybe if you put that money into the kitchen, into the master, you're going to get a lot better ROI, or, maybe that roof needs to be replaced. Let's work on that, maybe through insurance, and see if we can get something done, versus let's make the coolest back patio you've ever seen. So I think it just goes back to get with a good listing agent first. If you're 6 months or a year out, say, hey, what would really increase the value of this home and get the most out of it? What should I be focusing on if I am going to put money into it?
So Aaron, let me ask you, how would you advise that client? Would you advise them to put some money into the kitchen and do renovations, or to price to sell as it is?
Well, so we have an ace up our sleeve in our market. We have a lady named Katie Edge, and she specializes in those situations. So she runs a makeover company, just hugely discounted, where she can come in and make things look amazing for next to nothing. She ends up usually painting and doing
countertops,
kind of that woman's touch that people overlook, and you come in and you're just wowed. And so that's our ace up the sleeve that we use in those situations. I think in a normal market, yeah, you're going to have to do something to get that home sold. They want to sell it over market value. Everybody does. And, there's a home on the street that's been completely redone, less than what they want to list for. I mean,
Yeah.
it creates tough competition. So,
Well, and Amy, I think you have a similar program, right, with your team, that if there's a home that really, you walk in, you're like, this really needs some updating, you guys have a program where you can help them get market ready.
We do. So our program is called Design to Sell. And what we do is go in, and this is a lot of times for our clients that have a lot of equity, but they don't necessarily have the upfront cash or time to put into making the renovation. So we'll go in and, maybe the kitchen needs some love, or we definitely need to paint. We need to do carpet. I have a property that we're doing this in right now. And I mean, we're literally replacing all the appliances. We're redoing bathrooms. Kitchen is getting a facelift as far as granite countertops and various things. We do landscaping. We did the home inspection up front, so we're making some key repairs that we know are going to be really important. So what we do is we put all of that together as an estimate. We then show our clients, okay, if we sell as is and we don't make these repairs, this is how much we can anticipate making, and this is probably what your days on market would look like approximately, and we just show them a lot of market data. We then show them the data of, okay, so if we do these things, we know we're going to be able to price here. You're likely going to be able to get A, B, C, or D offers depending upon the situation. Minimal inspections, we've already done the inspection, so you're probably going to get competing offers or what have you. And then if they like the spread, because there's usually a really decent spread in our market, then we will actually go ahead and have our contractors do all of the repairs. So they literally can just go to work, come home. We are managing, we're basically the general contractor for the project. We take care of everything. And then as soon as it's done, it's like clockwork. All of our contractors and vendors work together. As soon as all the contractors are done and the landscapers are done, the cleaners are there, the photographers are there, all of our media is done, properties right on the market as it coming soon and then on the market. So we've had, really great success with that program, and our sellers have just loved it because it's quick, it's efficient, but they make so much more money, and they're not having to come to the table with a considerable amount of upfront costs or time and not knowing who to call and having contractors not show up and, not having the work done to a specific standard that they need to have for a sale. So yeah, that's
I
what
love that so much. That is so
Right?
incredible. I'm assuming all the contractors get paid out at closing out of the equity.
They do not. So our program, we pay them up front, and then we
Okay.
are then reimbursed at closing, and then there is a fee for the program.
Wow, that is so neat.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
that's just
Little
further that's just further proof that you need to know an agent in your area who is specific to the market trends in the area and has those resources, those vendors, and those programs that can get your house sold, because the market trends are just so situational and so specific to your area. So,
All right, I've got a question that goes slightly in all of you to each of you, because you're all in slightly different markets. But my husband says, "Oh shoot, we missed the market. Like we can't sell our house this year because school has already started." And I know in our market, because of the home we're in, it's in an idolized neighborhood where the schools are all 10 schools and they're all really great schools. And our home is a home that would be great for a family with kids. And so, oh, shoot, we didn't sell our house before school started. We now have to wait another year until next spring to sell it. Is that true or false?
Not in our market at all. It's actually opposite. And it's funny because I always thought that before I became a realtor. I just assumed that's when people want to move during the summer or when
Right.
it's season. And that's opposite in our area, actually. That's the summer is one of the slower times of the year. And the majority of our families move in spring and fall. And that's actually the best time, depending upon what opportunities they're seeking. So in our market, I have a lot of clients who think that, and it's just, that's not the way that it works here.
I think there was a time then that was the case, but the world's just shifted, and there's a lot of school options. There's a lot of work from home options. There's a lot of families are willing to, some of them move, one of them stay and, work. It's just a much more fluid world as far as the opportunities for us to work from home or where the kids go to school, and to make those things work. So it's not like it used to be where you have
Summer
to be.
schedules have changed too, because like for us, my son started school 3 weeks ago. So our summer market here used to be middle of June, and then it would, kids didn't go back to school until after Labor Day. And then that changed a number of years ago. So now we go back, we went to school August 9th, I think it was, is when the kids went back to school. And so, he's in football. So of course he starts doing school practices every day that, second to last week of July. So then your summer kind of backs up a little bit more. And then, in this area, there's so much travel over 4th of July, and people are not giving up, the vacations right now. They want to take the vacations. And the way the 4th of July holiday fell this year and last year, we actually had 2 very slow weekends and 2 very slow weeks here, just because of how people were able to travel. So I think it also depends on when school starts for your areas and the travel and traffic and things like that. So I'm sure it's very local.
Yeah, and I would say here in our market, a lot of homeowners believe that once school starts, we've got this big home and it's not going to sell, and let's wait, which means the people that do, there's a lot less competition when it comes to the sell, and a lot more buyers looking at their home. because there's very few of those huge, 5-bedroom homes on the market after school starts in our area. And so now you've got a lot more eyes on your home because a lot of people do believe that still. And so we're seeing that any time of the year is a good time to list and sell. But people have these preconceived notions that, no, we should wait until next year because we're going to get more offers. Not necessarily the case. Next year during the summer, everyone that has a 5-bedroom home has it on the market. Now everybody's got 30 options instead of 3. So,
and your competition's stiff, and your kitchen better be looking good.
Yeah. So, actually, if you want to get the most out of your home, and of course, depending on your area, you might want to list it this time of year. You're going to have those focused eyes on your home and not as much competition, or at least in our area, that's the way it is.
So know your market, I think, is the key today, and to find a professional real estate agent who can help you know your market. So I want to thank everybody for all of the great input that you had today. I will go around the room, tell everybody who's listening where they can find us. We'll start with you, Angela.
Again, I'm Angela Brown. I'm the cleaning end of the move-in, move-out cleaning, and I'm at Ask Angela Brown on all the social medias.
Thanks, Angela. Regina?
I'm Regina Brown out of San Antonio. It's Regina B. Realty on all the social medias.
And I'm Ask Aaron Brown on just about anywhere online. So you can find us pretty easily if you just Google our names.
Great. And Amy, it was so great having you with us today. A wealth of information and just a joy to have on. So if you'll tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh, thank you so much. So yes, you pretty much any version of my name. So Amy Cherry Taylor on all the socials as well. So
great. And I'm Brooke Bryant, and I look forward to see everybody here next week. And you can find me on social media at Ask Brooke Bryant. Thanks, and have a great week.
Thank you all.
It was such